Hello, this is Tony, and welcome to another video. I've decided to fast forward. I was doing the projects in order, but I decided to fast forward to 333 just because I feel like that's kind of in the mode that I'm in right now. That doesn't make any sense. Let me rephrase. My brain feels like it connects more to the imagery of 333 at this specific moment in time. When you're looking at Blade's entire discography, it's up and down between the darks and the lights, right? He starts off very dark and he stays dark-ish, I guess you could say solemn-ish, all the way up to red light. And then starting with Trash Island, starting with 333, with Exeter, he starts delving into more light motifs, if that makes any sense. Right here, I guess I can show y'all. I asked my brother, I gave him the 333 album cover as a reference, and I asked my brother if he could paint me his own interpretation of it, which looks very cool. I was amazed when I first saw that, and so I'll probably link his website down in the description if you want to, request art from him. He does take commissions and all that, but the focus of this video is going to be I hate to say the word analysis, but my analysis or my thoughts on 333 as an album. As far as Blade projects goes, like the people who love it, they really love it. But some people aren't like super fans of it. They more vibe with Blade's edgy, like Red Light Blade or like Working on Dying Blade. This is Blade's first, he kind of hinted at it with Exeter, but this is his first, boom, spirituality in your face, So let's get started by going down the track list. Wings in Motion. So even just, from a basic perspective, when you think of wings, either you're thinking of, like a Pegasus or angel wings that are moving, they're in motion. But there's also wings like on a plane or on a helicopter that just stay like that, right? So again, this is how Blade, this is why Blade is jarring to some people, because he introduces ideas that there's not a black and white way of thinking about it. But he's saying that there's wings are in motion, okay? And so you have to kind of unpack that and see what he means by that. Ripples broken, wings in motion. So a ripple, if you think about a ripple, it starts off at a singular point and then it spreads, right? But as it's spreading, the ripples start breaking, And so this is kind of like a meta analogy that Blade is using in his lyrics. Is he's in the center of the ripple, and then as his message starts to spread, it starts getting broken, okay? And this is kind of to do with the idea, if you've ever played the game Telephone, you say something like a phrase or something like that, and then each person has to whisper it to each other, and what happens by the very end? The whole idea that was initially, it's like gone, So Blade, I think, when he's saying the ripple's broken, he's saying that his message or the meaning behind his lyrics is being distorted. That's at least my interpretation. Wings in motion. Far from before, I'm on my hands again, the lonely fall. So Blade here is, I think he's trying to repent for his past doings, I guess we'll get more into it with Red Light, but that was a dark time in Blade's life, I believe, and he was trying to see the good, but it was clouded by the darkness, but now everything's crystalline bliss. Everything clears up. Everything makes sense, just because he's fully accepted his spiritual side, right? But he's on his hands again. He keeps falling, But whenever he falls, again, all through the night, he remembers the core ideology of the truth, the true story that he's trying to follow, He's the hero of his own story. And then as it expands, it gets broken. The ripple, it becomes too big at that point for Blade to control. Blade is providing the message to us through his lyrics, through his discography, but the farther it goes from the source, the more, disturbed it can get, if that makes any sense. I definitely see that, and there's a reason why people talk about the Drain Gang fan base being incredibly toxic. I think it's because they're not looking at Blade's lyrics with an open mind, and they're literally becoming gatekeepers, which is a song from Blade. They're literally becoming gatekeepers to this way of thinking, and I think that's not good. We need to... It's going to be a ripple, but the ripple should remain intact, right? And so that's Wings in Motion. Oh boy. We have a lot of songs here. If you look at this painting that my brother did, you can see the angel wing right there. Now, that wing is not in motion because it's a static image. But, anyways, now we have Don't Worry. 2 white doves, mix my blood with your blood, one for one. Okay? So, if you're talking about the symbolism of a white dove, in Christianity, it could be considered the Holy Spirit, but that's only one white dove. But then there's 2 white doves. And so I was trying to think like what he could be referring to. I think possibly, maybe this could be considered a stretch, but with Noah's Ark, when Noah, in the Bible, when Noah landed on, the new place where they were going to set everything up, or actually, no, they were just trying to find where they could park the ark, right? And he sends out, I believe it's like a black raven or a bird, and that raven just goes and never comes back. It may be a crow, but he also sends out a white dove, and the white dove brings back, I believe he brings back a plant or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. So 2 white doves, I think you just have to unpack, kind of figure that out for yourself, what he means. That's my interpretation of it, is he also has make 2 into 1 with good luck. We'll make 2 into 1. So, it's just interesting because 2 plus 1 is 3, so he goes 2 white doves, 1 for 1. You add that all together, you get 3. Right? And I guess I didn't really talk about what 333 means. If you look up, 333 on Wikipedia, it was a common year starting on Monday, and there's a lot of coincidences or things with 333 that show up. What Blade is saying by 333 is he's saying focus on the number 3 as being an important number. That's all he's saying. Now, you can go into why it's important to you. For me, 3 is important because of the 3 stars in the sky, Orion's belt. 3 is important because of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit's right there. I come from a family where my parents had 3 kids, me and my brother and sister. Shout outs to my brother for drawing this. And 3 plus 3 plus 3. So 3 threes equals 9. Okay? So that's kind of like it. 333 is a representation, at least to me, of Blade just fully delving into the spiritual side. Okay, how many years did Jesus live before he was crucified? 33. Things come in threes. I lived on the 3rd floor of my college dorm, and I lived on the 3rd floor of my apartment complex. My zip code in Maine was 04103. All of these things, right? So Blade is saying, what Blade's saying with 333 is he's saying stop looking at life literally. He will get to reality surf, but he says DVD, My Life is a Cartoon. Start recognizing the symbolism that appears in your everyday life that is a part of your story. That's what Blade's doing. He's the hero of his story. We're all the heroes of our own story. Right? And do we write the story? Kind of. But we're writing it with a higher power, with God who's controlling it. And you don't have to believe that, but this is how I believe Blade is approaching this music, right? So let's go back to Don't Worry, Two White Doves. Please don't run. It's still cute. It's still fun, is it not? So Blade is saying, like, having this spiritual understanding. It's cute. It's fun. You know, girls are like, oh, what's my star sign? Blah, blah, blah. You know, but it's not, because in order to get to a deeper understanding of the light, you have to delve into a deeper understanding of the dark, right? And we'll get more into that with Reality Surf, especially the music video, which my buddy just got tattooed. It's like an evil being or spirit or devil lifts him up to heaven, right? Heart and mind, black and white. I think this is Blade saying, like, there's good and bad, you know? But it's interesting because we wouldn't call someone's mind, like, black and white, but he's just saying that he has both perspectives in his head of the dark and the light, you know? And the two align, right? X My Name Situations Changed. This kind of reminds me of a track he did with Kane Groceries called Faceless, you know? He's like, I don't have a face. Like, I'm not important. I also don't have a name. My name's not important. Exit out, you know? Exit out. And we see like this kind of happening in real life. The one example that comes to my head is where they take the Christ out of Christmas and they put Xmas, you know? And it's like, well, what's the point of Christmas? What's the point of Xmas? Like, that doesn't even make sense. You know, you're trying to take out a spiritual figure, even if you don't believe he actually existed. You're trying to take that idea that founded the holiday out of it, you know? In 300 years, what if it's just called Xmas? We'll have no idea where it came from, you know? So Blade is kind of like alluding to this kind of like Xing out, right? Say a prayer, Adam and Eve, me and Blade. Blade is saying it's like Adam and Eve, in that Adam and Eve, and he says, say a prayer, me and Blade. He's almost alluding to himself as a god or writer of the story. I think he's right in some senses, wrong in others, but that's just my personal opinion. I believe that we are our own person, but maybe he's also alluding to the fact that we have filters, you know? When you talk to your parents, you know, you may not use cuss words. You're putting a filter on your language. When you're talking with kids, you may talk in like a, hey, what's up, little guy? Hey, phone. Like, you may put on a filter when you're talking with different groups of people and based on the context you're in, right? So he's saying, say a prayer, Adam and Eve, me and Blade. He's directly referencing himself to Adam and Eve because Blade has taken a bite of the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge, right? And that's shown in songs like Apple and in songs like Reality Surf and other stuff like that. But he says, please don't worry, because what did Pope John Paul II say? Be not afraid. God's taking care of it, not us. We help write our own story, but who's the author? We're like editors in our story. Like, my edit was, I took a hit of my nicotine vape there, right? So don't worry. Blade's going to make it all better. He's going to be in our mind, right? Keys to the city. So even just right off the bat, it's about, like, you know, the kingdom of heaven, if you imagine it like a city, and who holds the keys to the kingdom. In the Christian religion, that would be Peter. You know, he's the rock upon which the church was built. True essence of D9 Enterprises, man, key to the city. the essence of Blade's music is to give you the keys to the kingdom, is to allow you to access the spiritual enlightenment that he has accessed. It's allowing you, handing off the keys, right? Prada boots from Italy, right? And so Blade specifically references Italy. It's like, why would he do that? Well, where's the Vatican, right? Who's holding the keys right now? It's an interesting question. It's an interesting thought. I got the key to the city. Twitter at me. It's Blade City. Caught up in a bad moment. Take it as an omen. So Blade recognizes like these coincidences, in his life. And instead of just saying, oh, they're random coincidences, he's labeling them as good or bad in a black and white way. So caught up in a bad moment, take it as an omen. Put a mask on my face. I'm faceless. Now I look like an emoji. So faceless, like you take away your face and it's just nothing, right? It's kind of like in my album cover for Mirage, the guy in the picture, I didn't draw a face on him. I didn't feel like it was important to do. But what Blade's saying is he's not showing his real emotions, but he's showing an emoji, right? He's like, let me look through my filters. Do they expect me to be sad? Do they expect me to be happy? Let me grab my emoji, put that on my face. And this is stuff that we do subconsciously and we don't think about. When you're interacting with your boss or coworkers, you're going to act different than you do with your best friends, and you're going to act different with your family, and you're going to act different with your family one-on-one, right? How could I be so greedy? I put myself first when you needed me the most. This can be taken in two ways, right? If you're looking at it from a girlfriend perspective, right? Sometimes we have to put on our own oxygen mask before we put on someone else's. So it's not that putting yourself first is bad, but Blade also, if you look at this in another way, I put myself first when you needed me the most. I was my own higher power. I didn't need God's higher power. But God needs us to be able to write our story. So that's why we have to have, it's a reciprocal relationship with a higher power, if you believe in that. Because you have to have the humility to say, it's not just me. How could I be so greedy in thinking that I was the sole author of my own story, right? Could be a stretch. Channel may not be for you. This is my, just ideas and stuff like that. Sign on the door, it says Drain members only. So he's alluding to the gatekeepy, and Blade calls himself the gatekeeper. But in reality, he's opening the gate for us, right? The only gatekeepers are the people who say, I am the only one who has access to this knowledge, spiritual knowledge, the fruit, and I'm the only one who can best interpret it. That's a failure if that's how you're going about it, right? Enlightenment should be shared. Knowledge should be shared, right? Good and bad knowledge. It should all be shared because there's good and bad knowledge, and then there's true and untrue knowledge, right? And so having to kind of like weave your way through that, or navigate through that is a difficult challenge. And that's what Blade's trying to do. He's trying to make it black and white, right? So let's move on to track 4. And this is the hero of my story, like we've been talking about. Out the gate like Messiah, saying that he, and some people might think this is like sacrilegious to like directly compare yourself to Jesus, But Blade's not saying he is Jesus. He says out the gate like Messiah, right? He's not saying he is Jesus. He's recognizing that the trials and tribulations he's gone through are similar to that, just in context, are similar to what Jesus went through. He's taking on all this trash, right? And he's making something beautiful out of it. Just as Christ did. He took all of our sins and he saved us from that. Crown around my head in barbed wire. Crazy line. He also says barbed wire around my arms in Hennessy and Sailor Moon. But it's like a modern version of thorns. I believe I may have talked about this in an earlier video. If I didn't, yeah. So, can't you tell I keep it on a budget? He doesn't need big labels. He doesn't need someone controlling. The only person who's controlling his story and his music is God. And God is love, and it's his drug, and it's many things. But a label is not going to do that. And that's funny how we see, like, you know, there's all this, at least on the Drain subreddit, there was a little mix-up of, like, you know, is Blade going to keep Year 001 as an album thing, you know? In one of his songs, he says, fuck a label, you know, I'll still go the hardest, right? Or screw a label, I'm sorry for that language. Right. And it's Disney Channel and the Playhouse. This is an interesting line when you think about stories, you know, because it's Hero of My Story. Disney Channel, Disney is creating a story for children to follow, several stories in the forms of cartoons, right? Right? Blade says, DVD, my life is a cartoon. And it's Disney Channel and the Playhouse. So he's saying, look, right now, a big corporation, Disney, is controlling the story that these little kids are latching on to. But is it a true story? Yes? No? This is stuff Blade wants us to unpack, right? I don't have all the answers, okay? I'm just noticing the symbols and trying to explain them in a digestible way. Because Blade was very digestible to me. And that's how I was able to latch on to his spiritual understanding. But to everyone else, like who I try to show, oh, the auto-tune is jarring. Oh, he goes back and forth between light and dark motifs. Oh, I can't listen to this. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, but the people who do understand what Blade's trying to say are super fans, right? Anyways, there's no winners or losers in this fight. You know, I guess I personally disagree with Blade there. Well, he's basically saying that it's like, you know, everyone's on the same playing field. So I get that, but I do think that good wins. I don't know if Blade agrees with me there. He may not. I would understand if he didn't. But I do think that in one of my songs I say the villain never wins. I think that overall, the higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, is good, right? Or is mostly good, even if some of his methods may not make sense to us. Okay? But the people who are controlling the narrative for other people, you know, like Disney Channel, you know, they control a certain type of narrative that influences our lives. People don't think about that. I grew up watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. It's the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, you know. And he's also saying, because I don't think Disney Channel is called Playhouse Disney anymore. And it's interesting when you think about Playhouse, because Blade's Crest album, oh, my tattoo of the Crest album. You know, and why is that house painted red? I don't know. I don't want your body touch your mind, okay? So this kind of has to go with, it's like an early idea. I don't know if, like, what religion it comes from. Probably comes from several religions. How, like, everything of the flesh is, like, yucky. Like we're stuck in these flesh prisons, you know. Sexual desire can be bad or weird or all that. Oh, yeah?
No?
Yeah. Okay, might be. My dad just came to say something to me. So if we keep going, he says 33, they say I got too many. Maybe Blade. I mean, this to me is kind of a hard question. It's like 33, they say I got too many. Is it 33 years? Like, because Jesus was alive for 33 years before he died? I'm not entirely sure, but or he's saying, you know, 33, 3 threes equal 9. 9 upside down is a 6. And then, you know, he's just talking about numbers, okay? And so it's up to you to interpret what these numbers mean to you. Okay? I think me and Blade he got me on the same page as he did when he explained the numbers. Want to be the hero of my story. Rain World, you will always be a tourist. So this is, he never released Rain World. I have a theory that it could be coming out soon. But I'm probably crazy for that. We'll never get Play 'Em Like Atari full because Blade and Echo 2K are assholes by gatekeeping that stuff. Like, come on, Blade, if you're listening to this, release Cash in My Jeans, dude. Seriously. I hate that I have to look up an AI filtered version. Just release your music, okay? Stop being gatekeepy about that, okay? There was the outtakes from Crest, or they assume it was from Crest, Dwarf, I think, was one of them. Or there's one where he's like, loss and gain, hammer in the nail, pain. And it's like, oh yeah, but we're not going to release those officially. So, I'm just saying, I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to show how gatekeeping can be bad. But at the end of the day, I think it's more valuable for them to release the official versions of these songs. Anyways, end of my rant there. They like how I'm stepping in the Pradas. Remember, in the last song, he says he got Prada boots from Italy. He got his drip from a place where they're the gatekeepers of the knowledge in the Vatican, right? And you can either take that analogy or symbolism further, and that's how I think you can understand Blade in the way that he understands his own music. Or, you can also just take it from a general perspective. They like how I'm stepping with the Pradas. People like when he's flexing, Blade is creating a movement that has tons of, it's a video movement with the music videos, art, ideology, all that, right? Metal around my wrist, it's weighing heavy. It's like the cross that we have to bear, but he does it with superficial, or not superficial, but with a literal object, the chains are weighing heavy, right? Anyways. Whew. Let's go to hundreds. Hundreds coming in, hundreds coming out, I have a song that says my money's like a circus, Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. If you're in the stock market or anything like that, you know how the economy works. It has ups and downs. Hundreds coming in, hundreds coming out. I'm paranoid, feel like I'm being followed. So it's interesting because you can take it from a spiritual perspective, God is constantly hovering over his head and giving input on whether he's making a good or bad decision. But it's funny how he says he feels like he's being followed, but he actually is being followed by all of his fans, And, in Cold Visions, he has paranoia intro. Paranoia is another part of Blade's motifs that he delves into, is once you have the full understanding of both sides, the light and the dark, which is wrapped all together in the 333 terminology. You're seeing both sides, you get paranoid. It's like everyone else can make a black and white decision about what's good and bad, but I'm in the middle where I think goodness and badness are connected and interwoven, So that's interesting. It goes down the drain and came out clean, right? So he drained himself. He went into the darkness, delved deep into it. But when he come out, he's more enlightened than he ever was in the past. It's think about a beach ball, If you push a beach ball into the water, push it down, it's going deeper into the abyss. But then it jumps up even higher when you let go. When you then let go of pushing it, boom! It's shooting up more than if it ever was if you just, if you didn't push it down, right? Working with the 50s, 100s, it's working like a machine, input, output. Blade puts input as music, output is what the fans think, right? Let's move on to track 6, Mean Girls. The mean girls, the bad girls, back of the club. Trash star, don't you know I'm a bastard? Traumas of the past bring it backwards. So, this is an interesting song because Blade is talking about how these girls or these people that he's with, they're low-key mean, or maybe high-key mean, but he still likes to hang out with them, you know? And he's like, don't you know I'm a bastard child? Like, don't you know, like, I came straight from the trash? Like, why are you wanting to hang out with me? But also, you're mean, you know? And he says, you know just what I like, baby, you can make my dream come true, you know? So he's in a spot where he loves women, you know, and he respects them, but he also sees that there's a mean side to them when he tries to enter a relationship with them. And this is just due by virtue of the fact that Blade's a guy and he's heterosexual, you know, talking about a girl. But you can flip it too, you know. If it was Charlie XCX, she could make a song about the bad boys or the mean boys, you know. He's not being sexist. He's just explaining life from his perspective, right? Absolute with the heist, let's get hammered. He repeats again, let's get hammered, you know. If you're taking it from a biblical perspective, who got hammered? Boom, boom. You know, stuff to unpack, stuff to think about. Let's move on to track 7. Innocent of All Things. I love this song. It's not hard to see that you ruined me. Can't believe it's real. Oh. So he sees the realness of the love, but he also sees how dependent he is on either the ideology, either 333, or a higher power, how dependent he is on the higher power, or just a girl that he loves, right? I had to succeed because I felt the weed. I had to succeed, Freudian slip, because I felt the need. Or was it the weed? I don't know. So he's also alluding to the fact that he wouldn't even be in this headspace or understand spirituality in the way that he does now if it wasn't for weed. Interesting thought. Innocent of all things, innocent of all things. He's saying, look, I screw up. Blade has constantly said through his music that he screws up. But he's innocent because it was part of the story God was writing for him to screw up at certain points and to learn from that, to find gain in the losses, right? Cinderella walking. The shoe fits perfectly for Cinderella, just as this ideology, this spirituality fits perfectly for Blade. And then he goes, you and I versus time, unfolding light. Faith is being unfroze. This sparks joy. Pigeon blood red. And so this is kind of like a play on, like, he's not like Noah letting the white dove go out into the unknown and then bring back something that's good. He's saying, like, it's a pigeon, and pigeons are very, like, you know, they're kind of like the rats of the bird community, you know. But this pigeon's blood red, which means it delved into the red, the evil, you know. But bring me back up. The pigeon's gonna fly, and hopefully all that blood is gonna fall off, you know, or maybe he'll take a bath, you know, like in a bird bath, another one of Blade's songs, right? And then take him up to spiritual enlightenment of some sense. Innocent of all things, still a second beating of my heart. Stars do a spin seraphim. So he's just saying, like, there's angels everywhere. They call Blade the auto-tune angel, but think less of angels as like a supernatural entity that may or may not exist, and just think of it as a metaphor for people in our lives who bring us up out of dark spots. That's all you got to think about it. Could be a mom, dad, best friend, you know, someone saved you from something. Those are the seraphim, or those are the angels that bring you, that like when the pigeon dives in the blood, they take you out and they wash you. They clean you with Dawn. You know, I saw that commercial. You know, where they have all the little ugly ducklings who are covered in oil from oil spills, and then they put Dawn on them and make them all clean. That's what Bladee is doing with his music, right? But you have to think about it. Whew. It's gonna be a long video. I'm telling you, I get drained talking about this stuff. Speaking of mud, look at this picture. Isn't that cool? The lamb, you know, he's stuck in the mud or the blood or whatever, and he's coming to save him, but we can't really see his face, but we know that's, you know, looks like Jesus, but we don't really know who it is. Anyways, got this from Goodwill for $3. I paid $53.33 for this because I had to pay my brother for his amazing work. And I'm super glad that I did, and he allowed me to pay him and stuff. Anyways. Reality surf. I gotta get that watch time. Get that click-through rate up. No, I'm just kidding. Reality surf. Tree so ripe, we got fruit. Okay? It's not an old tree, it's a new tree. You know? Just like in the Garden of Eden, you know, it was a new tree. Put a concept on the feeling. So Blade feels the spiritual peace first, and then he explains it through the 333 ideology. But he's putting a concept on the feeling. He's not taking a concept and then see how he feels about it. The feeling comes first, the good feeling. And then he describes it in the way that he does through his music. On Hawaii Island. Usually he just talks about Trash Island up until this point. He was like, oh, I come from an island of trash, you know, a place that's secluded, a place that's different from all the other people's ideas about faith, religion, spirituality, life. I'm on an island which has the truest meaning, but there's so much trash on it. But now he says he's on Hawaii Island, which means like he's just having fun and chilling. Venom in the vial. Enemies closer than you. You know, in his journey to connect with a higher power, God, right? He's saying that he's made that, like, people who he would consider his friends, but they're closer to him than God ever was. Like in Dresden ER, Blade says, you make all the notes in the piano of gold, but when I need you the most, it gets really quiet. You know, so when he needs God the most, his enemies are there. You know, it's like a temptation, right? Cinderella, wear it if it suits, right? He may have not wanted to understand spirituality in this way, but because he does now and it fits him perfectly fine, he's going to vibe with it. Snakes slither in the spine, take the fruit. Again, this whole song is a reimagination of the Adam and Eve story, right? He takes a metaphorical bite of the tree of knowledge, of the fruit from the tree of knowledge, but there's a spider in it, right? It's not all good. But the evil figure in that video brings him up. And that's why I think for this song in particular, it's very important that you watch the video, because I feel like they're perfect together, right? And so in that video, he's walking down a path, and it starts out being straight, you know, straight and narrow, but what? He has a blue and a red eye, okay? Think of the Matrix, you know? Think of Star Wars, blue lightsaber, red lightsaber. You know, he sees both sides, right? And he's walking on a straight path. All of a sudden, he sees this, it looked like a Legend of Zelda kind of dude, like a necromancer or whatever, and then he disappears. And then his path starts becoming more curved. And so he's getting lost, you know. He's not on the path of the straight and narrow anymore. He's on a curved path. And then what happens? That devilish figure picks him up, but brings him up. He's not bringing him down. He's bringing him up to enter the gates of heaven, you know. He's He's saying you don't even need the keys to the gate. It's just going to open up for you. Still a dirty city throwing cards. Looking for the arrow when you shoot. So that's kind of like when you see an arrow pass by, that could maybe be seeing a symbol that looks like a coincidence. When you look up at the stars and you see 3 of them and you're like, wow, 3 is actually a pretty interesting number in terms of what has come in 3s in history, you know. Anyways, mirror, mirror, the reflection of the law. Who makes the law? We do. But we do it as a consensus, right, between all of us. And who's controlling that? Who's controlling what our likes and interests are on what the law should be? It's God. It's the higher power. Or it's something darker. But that's also like a higher power that's evil, I guess is what you could say. DVD, My Life is a Cartoon. He doesn't want to look at life super literally, because then you lose the spiritual side of it, right? You know, when you start looking at life like, oh, only logic, blah, blah, blah. So he's saying, DVD, My Life is a Cartoon. It's also a low-key drug reference, you know, like if you've ever taken a bunch of acid, not that I have. But, you know, everything becomes kind of cartoonish, you know, and you're experiencing reality, but you're experiencing it through a lens that changes it and makes it feel not real, makes it feel like a cartoon. Build it just to watch it fall apart. Think of the Tower of Babel, you know, that's just what came to mind. Everyone arguing about how to get to heaven, and then it crumbles. Because everyone can't communicate with each other. They all start speaking different languages. Let's go to track 9, Noblest Strive. Whew. I really got to get in the zone. No product placement. Because I don't want to sin. No, I'm just kidding. I got to be in the zone. Turn your mental prison into a maze. Yeah, so we're stuck in our minds, you know, but if we make it into a maze, we're not going to always be focused on the strong implications that this spiritual knowledge leads us to. Okay? We're gonna create distractions for ourselves. In one of my songs, I say, mental prison, baby, I've committed felonies. It's like a similar idea, but he's saying turn it into a maze. Turn the maze into a place where you're safe. That's what Crest is. It's that house. It's that safe house, as he says in Glue. Everything will wither and decay, but the energy will stay. You know, we're all going to die, but the words and the feelings and the spirituality and the emotions, that never dies. And that's why artists, you know, live longer than their works. Like, I don't know if it was specifically Van Gogh or someone, but there's been stories about artists who, that no one understood their work in their time, right? Everyone thought they were crazy, weird, blah, blah, blah. But then years later, people were like, oh my gosh, this guy had avant-garde thoughts and we should look into it. But it's too late because he's dead. We can't ask him what he thought about it, right? So, but the energy will stay. Blade's energy in his music will stay, and it always has stayed. A sensation, but it's strange. Call myself a vessel, not a name, right? And that goes into he X'd out his name, right? Because all he is a vessel or a tool that God uses to help write the story, to explain the message of spirituality, right? Call a taxi in the rain, you know. Drop rain, World Blade. It's been raining a lot. There's a hurricane coming. I'm just kidding. Take a plane out of space to confess I need it. So this goes back to wings in motion. Which wings don't have motion? A plane. So we're taking the plane out of the space. We're allowing our wings to fly. We don't need a plane to experience this enlightenment. We just need ourselves, and we need the people around us who bring us up out of the darkness, the angels, to carry us out, right? I think of it like Lakitu in Mario Kart. You know, you're driving on the path, you know, and all of a sudden you fall off the stage. And Lakitu, it takes a while, you know, you lose like your position in the race, but Lakitu on a cloud picks you up out of the hole, places you back on the racetrack. So, even young Lean in Kyoto says, I'm like Wario when I'm in Mario Kart. You know, people are like, haha, that's a funny lyric. You know, and it is, but it's deep when you think about it, and it's always been deep. It's not like Blade started to create more deep music now. He's just explaining his story in a different way. You know, in a spiritual context. Drop the mirror and it breaks. We're making the law, mirror, mirror, the reflection of the law, but then it breaks because we're only focused on what we think about the law. We're not focused on what God thinks about the law, or what a higher power thinks about the law, right? Or what even the higher evil power thinks about the law. Anyways, to the rainbow in my brain, this array of color, endlessly go over my mistakes. So Blade he's like one of those like monks from, you know, I'm just thinking of the Holy Grail, Monty Python, where they bang their head against the Bible, you know. They're like thinking, what are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? We'll never have a true understanding of the 100% correct rules, but we'll get to a truer understanding. We can get 99.9% of the way there if we let go of our ego and follow God's story, not our own, right? This is the message Blade's saying through his music. Makes me grounded in a way, fly away, you know? So even though this seems weird, like dark and light, black and white, all mixed together gray, it grounds you to accept the absurdity of our lives. I mean, it's absurd. This is like what the philosophers were talking about, you know, like with absurdism. I forget who was the main proponent of that, but it's a piece from recognizing the chaos. Recognizing that you can't do anything about it, really. You just have to trust that you're going to be okay. Please don't worry, right? 7 years, 7 tears, 7 different heavens. You know, it's not just one heaven. People have different ideas of what heaven is. You know, is it a physical place? Is it a spiritual place? Does time happen? Do you get, you know, tons of virgins or whatever? You know, like that's some of the crazy, you know, thoughts behind it, I think. Like, people have different ideas of heaven, you know. But it's also, 7 is an important number because it's the number of a week. You know, God created the world in 7 days. On the 7th day, he rested, right? So, when you're looking at Blade's music, you have to pay attention to each of the small details because he's one of the most connected artists I've ever heard in terms of his projects flowing together, you know. Makes me grounded in a way, fly away, but today I'll go up, I know it. He's not just trusting that he's going to receive enlightenment, he knows it, okay? And it's because he's went on this hard, difficult path or journey. Whew. I'm getting really drained out, guys. I was going to try to do the entire 333 album in one video, but seeing as we're already closing in on an hour, I think I'm going to stop there and release as a part 1, part 2, like I did with Rain World, which isn't even officially released. But God bless, or if you're not into that, peace. I'll be back with part 2 of 333. Sorry for doing this out of order. I just got really excited to talk about specifically 333 because of my painting that I commissioned for my brother. And he doesn't even know, he's not even a Drain Gang fan. I just gave him the image, and I kind of explained a little bit of what it meant to me. And then he created this, and so if you want to check it out, or his other art, I'll put in a link in the description. But think about it. And think about how the blood red pigeon, stuck in the mud, stuck in the trash. Who's going to save us? Is it Blade? Is it God? Is no one going to save us? Are we even in a problem at all? Are we even in the mud? Or is that just like a crazy idea? Who knows? All right. Signing out.